we should start looking at how we differ from them. What makes us us? What makes you you? Okay? That's the cool part of all of this, because we are all individual people. We are not one big collective gaggle, all right? But most of us think that we are. You ask any student applying to college about their essay, okay? So what makes you different? They have no idea, right? They're just some sort of teenage age, gender, boy, girl, maybe undecided, okay? They like this, they do that, but they think everyone else is just the same as them, okay? You take them 3 or 4 questions into it, you're like, what do you like to do? And their typical response is they look at you. Well, what do you like to do when you have nothing else going on? They look at you. Okay, come on, one thing, right? They give it to you. And I did this with someone a couple of years ago, daughter of a friend who's at Dartmouth. She was writing her essay for Dartmouth, and I said to her, so, what makes you different? She's like, I don't like everybody else. I'm like, you're not, you're you. What is it different at you? She's like, well, I really like to draw. I said, okay, what does that mean? She's like, well, it means that and I'm like, do you copy things? No, I come up with my own ideas. So what does that mean? It means you're creative. And I said, do you give up? She's like, no, I see it through. So it shows commitment. Anyway, we went through this whole thing about what that showed. And then the other thing was she likes to cut paper, right? All lines. So it means that she's very precise. It means that she follows it. We came up with all this stuff, okay? And that went into her Dartmouth essay. And I don't know if that's what got her into Dartmouth, but let me tell you, it helped her differentiate herself from the pack. This contrast thing is important when you're applying to college, and it's important as you go through life, because you realize that you have stuff that sets you apart from other people, both good and bad. Okay, next slide. So it's all about the search for you. Okay, next slide. So getting to know yourself, and it sounds goofy, you're like, I know myself, but most of us don't, okay? It starts by kind of stepping out of your box and thinking about life from almost someone else's perspective, right? Think about your life in layers, or in terms of stages, or in terms of almost pieces of a pie. There are parts that you love, there are parts that you want to keep doing, and there are other things that you don't want to remember, okay? There are things that you're not proud of. There are things that you went through, that you learn from, but that you move on from, okay? So what you should do is look at this giant puzzle that is life. Keep the pieces that mean a lot to you. Keep the pieces that you've learned stuff from. But move away from the things that you dislike. Move away from the experiences that haven't turned out the way that you wanted and you didn't learn anything from. I'm sure we all have some of those, okay? And capitalize on the good stuff, right? So as I always say, there's stuff that we're good at, there's stuff that we're great at, and there's stuff that we're terrible at, right? I'm at the point now where the terrible stuff is just terrible, and it stays over there. I focus on the good and the great, right? I'm terrible at math, I'm terrible at science. So if I volunteer for something, I don't ever volunteer to work on the quantitative part of a project. It's not what I do, okay? But the communication stuff, I'm pretty good at, okay? Working with other people, that's another thing I'm pretty good at, right? I don't know if I'm great at anything, because my ego isn't there, all right? Maybe it should be, but it's not. So there's a lot of stuff I'm good at, and there's a lot of stuff that I enjoy, and that's the stuff that I like to work on, right? And we're all that way, and what I'm good at, you might be even better than me at, or it may not be your forte, right? My sister's a doctor. I barely passed biology. I never got beyond chemistry, okay? And she went to Hopkins and all that stuff. Same parents, how is that genetically possible? I have no idea, right? Well, we always joke about how different we are, right? She focuses on the stuff that she loves, that she's good at, and I do the same thing. I don't like to do this, right? You're just talking to yourself about yourself, but be realistic and ask yourself the tough questions. And this is all part of the self-discovery. If you're not honest, you're not going to get there. Okay, next slide. So these are just not even have been associated with. So I basically threatened to quit in the middle of the meeting. And I said specifically, well, do you want me to resign? Pause. If so, I'm happy to do it right now. Okay, I was really sort of wound up. And the person looked at me, the woman looked at me who was being so mean, and she's like, well, no. And I was like, well, then let's continue on in a civilized way then. Okay, and she's up here and I'm down here on the totem pole, all right? I don't think you should be mean to people, right? I think you need to be nice. And I think that there are times when you've been doing something for a long time, which is what this case in me, where you get to the point where you're like, why am I still doing this, right? This was never something that I intended to do. This was something that kind of evolved. I enjoyed it for a certain period of time, but now it's taking away from other stuff that I've discovered about myself that I want to do. And so I got home last night, I told my husband the story, and he said what I needed him to say, which was quit, right? And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we'll be fine. You'll figure it out. I'm like, you're right, I will. Because he goes, I know what you love to do, and I love to do stuff like this. I love I do a lot of, Jen was asking me earlier, so how do you describe what you do? I consult with people on their communication skills. So what that means is I work with people on public speaking, on putting together presentations, on personal branding, on generational communications, and like how does the baby boomer talk to the millennial or Gen Z or whatever, and everything in between. I love that stuff, okay? And I was just explaining to Jen that it's great because it works across all generations, okay? Little kids are afraid of the same stuff that 50-year-old women are, or that 60-year-old men are. And it's the same message, it's just translated differently, okay? And I love that. You know, you call me to work on your presentation with you, I am there. I love that stuff, okay? And the challenge is this other commitment that I have is taking away part of my week when I could be doing that stuff. And it was a great thing for a while, but now it's not fun, okay? And it doesn't even pay enough to be fun. Okay? Because there is this delicate dance sometimes of, well, but they're paying me so much money. I can't even use that excuse in this case. They're not, okay? So there is a strong likelihood I am gonna walk away, which I don't think I'm gonna regret, okay? But part of that is because I feel like I know myself. And part of that is because I'm confident enough that I think that I'll be okay leaving that, and I'll figure out a way to make up the income in other ways, okay? So that's it. All right, next slide. What motivates you? What inspires you? What excites you, okay? And I was just talking, what holds you back? Totally important. But in this case, what holds you back from being authentic, right? You may feel like you're confident with who you are and you know yourself, but you're still scared to do something. So that means there's gotta be something that's holding you back from being that person, okay? Because there shouldn't be any intrepidation. Yeah, something might be out of your comfort zone, but that's okay, right? But who is it or what is it that's causing you agita that you can't be more authentic? And then another great one, how do you sabotage yourself, okay? We're all really good at doing that, okay? We're all really good at making excuses for why we can't do something, right? I've been telling the story. I'm a big fan of Sting. He was in The Police, Message in a Bottle, Roxanne. Okay. Anyway, so I was at a thing a couple of years ago. It was a discussion about a show that he did. It was called The Last Ship. And The Last Ship was on Broadway for a blip of a period, and it was about his hometown where he grew up. But it took him 8 years to do the show, 8 years to write it. And someone asked him why. And he said, because he got in the way of himself. And we're all really good at doing that, okay? We come up with all of these excuses as why. And what I'm here to tell you, what I've told myself a billion times is you're the only person. And you can make 1,000 excuses, oh, it's not the right time, just do it. Quote Nike, just do it. Get over yourself and just do it. And just see where it goes, right? Because to me, I would rather try and fail than not try and regret. To me, regret is worse than failure. That's me. That may not be you, okay? But at least I tried. At least I crossed it off my list, right? I'm a huge list person. I make lists about everything. I even put stuff on there that I haven't done and then I cross it off. Because you know what? Well, A, I remember that I did it, but B, more importantly, I kind of get satisfied, right? This past weekend it was cold, still not cold. And so I did all this stuff around my house, hung some pictures, moved some furniture around, cleaned up the suitcase from like the Christmas vacation. We'd been sitting there 2 months, and it was so satisfying to get it all done, right? And then I made my new list for this week, and I've been checking things off as I go along, and it's very, very satisfying. And again, that's me. I know that a great way to manage my own self is stuff like that, and that's something I've learned about myself. Okay? Trust yourself, you need to, because if you can't trust you, who can you trust, right? Do I listen to others? If you could change one thing, why? These are all really important things to think about as you go through this process. Okay, next. So, to quote Aristotle, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So think about that one. He was a pretty smart guy, so there's a good quote from him. Okay, next. So, this is all, and most of us think that it's rude to focus on ourselves or selfish, but it's so silly, because if you don't focus on you, who's going to do it? Okay, it's like exercising, right? I exercise every day. and run, bike, go to bar class, go to spin class, something. I'm a big outdoor person though. And if I don't take the time to do it, it's not gonna happen. And I can make a bazillion excuses as to why I shouldn't or why I can't. But if I don't do it, it won't happen for myself. So I get up as early as I need to in the morning, sometimes late at night, although I prefer the morning, and I'll go for a run or do whatever, because I need that for me. And that's something that's really important. I don't think it's selfish. So, but this whole thing for discovering yourself is going to help you in 3 areas: relationships, career, and health. Okay, next slide. Confident in who you are, or more importantly, you have a greater understanding of who you are, you're going to be a better version of you. You're going to be a better self of you, yourself. It's going to help you with your husband or your partner or your boyfriend or whatever, with your kids. It's going to help you just in all aspects of your life, because you're comfortable with who you are, and that shows people are attracted to that. There's all this research that shows that if you're happy, like the world is so much better. Part of it is you have more relationships, okay? And they tend to go better because you're confident or comfortable, I should say, with who you are. And it also helps you eliminate the frenemies in your life, okay? We all have them. And I was telling the story earlier. So I have 2 friends from back in the day, which means over 20 years ago. And they've been great. They were at my wedding party, and we were at their marriages and all this stuff. But I've been the friend for the past 20 years. I'm the one that does all the inviting. Oh, let's do this. Oh, let's do that. Oh, let's do this. And so my New Year's resolution this year was to not invite them to anything. Okay? Because I'm sick of being that person. And I told my husband that. He goes, I think that's a great idea. He goes, because you're the one that's always making the reservation, buying the theater tickets, stressing about this. You need to stop. So what's been interesting is that one couple, the wife usually, okay, next, career. If you know what you're good at, you know what you hate, you know what inspires you, you're going to be better at work, okay? You're going to be able to participate in projects that you get something out of. You're going to be able to decide to walk away from things that you know you're not going to be great at or aren't going to give you some sort of mental stimulation or inspiration. And you're just going to feel better about your performance. You're going to be more satisfied with the results, and you're going to be happier all around. Okay, next slide. And health, okay? This is a big one. Mentally, if you understand who you are, you have a greater sense of calm and tranquility, and just, it's all good, right? Hakuna Matata, you guys also Lion King, right? Circle of Life, it's all there. Physically, if you're happy with who you are, you're probably going to take better care of yourself. It's not really rocket science. Like, okay, I'm cool with who I am. Now I'm happy with who I am. And research proves that the happier you are, the healthier you are. Okay, next slide. 40% of happiness is within your control. Approximate, probably even 50. Just think about that. Doctors will admit they don't really understand the brain necessarily, but what they do understand, or what they do know, is there is power in positivity. Okay, there is power in thinking something will happen, and it will. And by discovering who you are and possibly what you want to be, your life is just going to be that much more fulfilling. Okay, so you do you, to quote my kids. All right. So ways for you to do you better. And they said this one day, and I was like, really? And I'm like, oh my God, I love that. All right. So the first thing is try things out. Okay, you're never too old to try something. Told the story in the last lecture that I went hang gliding a few summers ago. Okay, and it was in New Zealand, so it was kind of like the thing to do. All right, but I was with my mom, who's obviously older than me, and my kids, who are obviously younger than me. And we wanted to do one fun last thing. So we found this group that took us hang gliding, and I didn't have to jump off anything. There was a plane that took you up. And so it was in tandem, and I happened to be with the national hang gliding champion of New Zealand, which was kind of fun. I knew I was in good hands. And so they take you up to the top. They take you up 4,800 feet. And then they cut the tether on the plane, and you glide down. It was in New Zealand, it's like the movies. Wow. It's very, very pretty. And I remember I'm like, oh my God, look at those rocks down below me. They were actually sheep that were moving. And I was like, oh my God, I'm that high up. And it was amazing, okay? And it was not something I ever thought I would do, but if I could do it again, it doesn't have to be New Zealand, I would do it in a heartbeat, okay? It was amazing. So try stuff. Appreciate the little things, right? We tend to be the society that goes from like Hallmark holiday to Hallmark holiday. And we don't celebrate the little things, like your kid doing well on a test, you getting a promotion at work, for God's sakes, running a 5K, okay? Those are little things that are actually big things if we take time to acknowledge them. As I said, get out of that comfort zone, right? Smile, right? If you saw Joe Biden talking last night in his speech, when he did so well, his smile was infectious, okay? That man deserves that smile, right? He's had a pretty hard life in terms of tragedies, people dying in this life, and it was really nice to see him so happy. So smile, right? I was telling the other groups, I run, and I live down in Montclair, and it's a lot of, like, you know, curmudgeon-y old New Yorkers, or curmudgeon-y New Yorkers, are not necessarily old. And so I'm running along every morning, sometimes with my dog, sometimes solo, and I say hello to everybody. I don't care if they're plugged in, talking to someone, I'm like, good morning, and they look at me. And some people say hello, but everybody smiles. All right, smiling goes a long way, and it also goes a long way with being nice. Be nice to people, all right? You only go around this block once, so be nice to them all the way. And then celebrate the success, as I sort of talked about before. Okay, next slide. Quotes. Lewis Carroll, we all know who he is. Who in the world am I? That's the great puzzle. And next slide, you're going to love this way. I have no idea who this woman is. None. I have no idea who Betty Friedan is. If anybody knows, please tell me. I have no idea.
Yes.
Who is she?
She wrote the book on the feminine esteem, or the feminine.
Okay.
Right. So she goes back a little bit.
I know, but
she's amazing.
Okay. So now we appreciate the quote even more. It is easier to live through someone else than to complete yourself. The freedom to lead and plan your own life is frightening if you have never faced it before. It is frightening when a woman finally realizes that there is no answer to the question, who am I, except the voice inside herself, right? I saw that, like I said, I didn't know who she was, but I just saw that and I was like, wow, that's it. Like that's it right there. And all I can tell you is it's a journey that you can do now. Like, oh my God, I went to her lecture, I'm so inspired, I'm gonna go out and discover myself, awesome, okay? Or you could do it next week, or you could do it next year, or you could do it in 10 years, okay? The sooner you do it and the greater sense you have of who you are, the better off you're gonna be, right? And it's not like you have to pay someone thousands of dollars to help you do this. Get a pen and a piece of paper and just write it down. Write down what you're good at and you're bad at. Write your friends, write down your possible frenemies. Test them out. Make them your New Year's resolution, slightly delayed, okay? See what happens. No, it's really interesting. And there's no one that's judging you on this. It's all you, all right? So with that, thank you guys for listening. So now we